RoidGearNet News, the fascinating story of the first bodybuilding show. Astute fans of the Mr. Olympia contest will note that the statuette given each year resembles a stocky mustachioed man of yesteryear. The man in question is Eugene Sandow, a Prussian-born physical culturist whose celebrity during the 1890s and early 19th century spread throughout much of the English and non-English speaking world. Depicted by his biographers David Chapman and David Waller as a forerunner to the modern bodybuilders of today, Sandow made the practice of weightlifting and posing acceptable for young and old during his time. As detailed by both men, Sandow's career was truly a remarkable thing. Aside from possessing an enviable physique, Sandow went on several world tours, had his own brand of magazines, supplements, and workout devices, ran a cocoa company, trained British troops for battle, and was even appointed as a scientific advisor on physical culture to the British monarch in the late 1910s. Barbend has called Sandow a pioneer and father of bodybuilding, and so he was. While Sandow himself is rightly seen by many as the first modern bodybuilder, he also has the distinction of being the first man to hold a recognizable physique contest. Though contests had been held before Sandow's great competition in 1901, none matched the scope or popularity of the Prussian-born strongman's venture. Thus, when we speak about the first bodybuilding show in history, we're looking directly at Eugene Sandow. This is the story of the great competition. Before Sandow. As alluded to, Sandow was not the first individual to chance upon the idea of a physique contest. The idea of male beauty shows had its origins during the Greco-Roman period, a point previously noted by Crowther. Though these contests were soon forgotten about by succeeding generations, they nevertheless set a precedence for more modern approaches. With the advent of physical culture in the late 19th century, individuals became interested once more in judging male beauty. The difference this time was that beauty was defined primarily by muscularity, low body fat, and visible strength. Physical culture, as previously covered on Barbend, marked a renewed interest in weight training and general keep-fit exercise during the late 19th century and early 20th century. It was a mixture of rudimentary powerlifting, bodybuilding, weightlifting, gymnastics, and much more. Ben Pollock previously detailed the importance of hand balancing for these early weight training pioneers. Safe to say, they tried a bit of everything. The holistic element of physical culture is important to note, as the first recorded winner of a physique contest was Launceston Elliott, Britain's first Olympic gold medalist weightlifter. Elliott won a small physique contest held privately by a Professor John Atkinson in 1898, a year before Sandow's own competition came to fruition. While Atkinson's contest was arguably the first physique contest held in Great Britain, which was then the bodybuilding mecca of its era. The small stature of the show, and the fact that contestants were given private invitations, negate any real comparison to the shows of today. Sandow's contest, on the other hand, was altogether a different affair. The great competition is born. In 1898, Sandow, whose star was still on the rise despite his already established worldwide fame, introduced fans to a rather interesting concept, a physical culture magazine. Termed Physical Culture, the periodical marked one of the first bodybuilding and weightlifting periodicals to be published monthly for a popular audience. Combining weightlifting advice with nutritional news and fun literary stories, Physical Culture marked an intensification of Sandow's business interests and demonstrated his keen eye for business. The magazine ran for nearly a decade before closing, is a good indication of its popularity. Opening the first issue with the rather simple question, "What is physical culture?" the magazine soon established itself as a serious enterprise. Within months, the magazine released the news that Sandow would be holding a great competition. This would seek to find the best developed man in Great Britain and Ireland. Furthermore, it would hold qualifying rounds in dozens of regions around the two land masses. Unlike the mass monsters of today, contestants were told that muscular bulk alone would not suffice. This was made abundantly clear in the first article on the topic. Prizes will not go to the biggest muscles, but those whose development is the most symmetrical and even. Entering the great competition. Becoming part of Sando's competition, at least in its early stages, was a rather simple thing to do. Readers of his magazine would cut out a coupon, take a photograph of themselves posing, and send both to Sando's London offices for judgment. To win a medal in the qualifying rounds, men were graded on the following criteria: general development, equality or balance of development, the condition and tone of the tissues, general health, and condition of the skin. Contestants were invited to enter these qualifying rounds from late 1898. Gold medalists from each region would then be invited to the grand finale to be held at a later date. While many, one presumes, competed solely for the rather prestigious-sounding title of the best developed man in Great Britain and Ireland, a cash incentive was also on offer. First place would have received a gold statuette of Sando, similar to the current Mr. Olympia trophy, although the original was smaller in size, but that's a different story for a different day. First place would also receive 1,000 guineas. Second place would receive a smaller silver statuette, and third place would receive a bronze one. The statuettes themselves were inspired by one given to Sando by William Pomeroy during the strongman's music hall career. It is doubtful Pomeroy would have predicted the ramifications of his gift to the strongman or the sport of bodybuilding more generally. While it was envisioned that the great competition, as Sando titled it, would run the same time in 1900, the outbreak of the Boer War in 1899 pushed the competition back. This gave Sando's potential competitors far more time to submit their entries. Aside from the inherent attraction that such a contest held for some, the duration of its qualifying process undoubtedly encouraged more to enter. What type of man entered the contest? From my present research into Sando's Irish contestants, remember this was a contest for the best developed physique in Ireland and Great Britain. It is clear that the contestants varied in terms of religion, wealth, and occupation. Thus, in Ireland, one finds Catholic farmers, Church of Ireland smiths, Church of Ireland railway workers, and Protestant furrier. That's someone who deals in fur. Simpler times. The sheer diversity of Sando's contestants, at least in Ireland, showcases the broad appeal of his physique show. The great spectacle. The great competition. After 3 years of educating, Sando and his fellow judges put the photographs to one side, detailed the county-by-county winners, and announced that all first-placed entrants were invited to London's Royal Albert Hall to compete in the physical culture contest of the century. From the announcement of the date, 14th of September 1901, Sando and his team went into overdrive preparing for the event. Competitors were told to come dressed in black tights, black jockey belt, and a leopard skin. One wonders how well the costume would be received today. The men were also required to meet Sando prior to the event, and choreograph their movements for the big event. Seeking to create a spectacle of unequaled proportions, wrestlers and athletes from around Great Britain were invited to compete for the audience's amusement. Coupled with this, Sando organized marching bands and musicians to play music supposedly penned by the Prussian himself. With the preparations in place, the event went underway. In total, 60 of Sando's gold medalist qualifiers competed in the Royal Albert Hall. Far from a drab affair, the theater boasted over 15,000 spectators. Needless to say, given Sando's own success in performing, the audience were not to be disappointed. The contest opened with a musical tribute to the late U.S. President William McKinley, who had been assassinated the previous week. So emotive was the performance that it roused the crowd to their feet. Following this, a marching performance was given by Watford Orphan Asylum before the wrestling and athletic events began. Finally, the time came for the 60 competitors to make their way to the main arena, accompanied by Sando's song, March of the Athletes. On the men themselves, Sando's magazine would later write that the competitors, as a body, were splendidly proportioned men, and it was no wonder that, despite the atmospheric conditions, the large concert hall should have attracted a crowd of all sorts and conditions of the male sex. Choosing a winner. Dressed in black tights, black jockey belts, and leopard skins, The men stood atop individual podiums, flexing their muscles in a variety of poses. The men were expected to keep their composure as the judges moved from contestant to contestant. Aside from Sandow, the judges that night were the sculptor Sir Charles Laws and the doctor-turned-author Dr. Arthur Conan Doyle of Sherlock Holmes fame. In the unlikely event that the men disagreed over the winner, Sandow would act as a third judge. Similar to modern shows, the great bulk of 60 contestants were cut to 12 hopeful physical culturists. From them, one man would be chosen. At the intermission, Sandow gave his own posing display, thereby demonstrating his own credentials in the regard. When the Prussian was fully attired once more, the time came to announce the eventual winner. Bodybuilding First Champion. Having gone through an arduous 3-year wait, the time finally came to announce the best developed man in Great Britain and Ireland, beating A.C. Smythe of Middlesex, who came third, and D. Cooper, who came second, was William Murray of Nottingham. Judged to have had the finest physique across the British Isles, Murray was first awarded the Sandow statuette. For the next several years, Murray toured Ireland and Great Britain, performing his own posing routines. Sandow continued to go from strength to strength, until the outbreak of the Great War put paid to his financial successes. The sport of bodybuilding or physique contests had been born. Sandow would continue to hold physique contests in his magazine until the periodical's closure in 1907, and American physical culturist Bernard McFadden held a similar competition in 1903, while countless other physical culturists recognized the value of holding physique contests. Despite a brief lull in the 1910s, recognizable shows emerged in following decades, such as Mr. America, Mr. Universe, and of course, Mr. Olympia. An example of a continuity between Sandow's great competition and the Mr. Olympia contest in particular can be found in the latter's trophy given out each year. In 1977, the original bronze Sandow trophy was given to Mr. Olympia champion Frank Zane. Prior to this, the trophy had been in the hands of Steve Reeves, who was awarded the trophy in 1950 following his victory in that year's Mr. Universe contest. Whose idea it was to resurrect the Sandow trophy for the Olympia is contentious, as Joe Weider, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jim Lorimer have all claimed credit at various moments. Regardless of who devised this idea, the fact that Sandow's trophy was used demonstrates the lasting effects of his great competition. Brought to you by RoidGearNet. Build your body with RoidGearNet.